What is going on, my friends? How are you? How are you? Come on in to the diner. Please use the hand sanitizer. Come on in. Super excited to have you here. My friends, let me know if the audio sounds good. I was playing with some stuff earlier, so I still gotta know if it sounds good. If it does, smash that thumbs up button for me. Smash a heart button, whatever platform you're on, and just let me know it sounds good. Thank you, friends. And let me know where are you calling in from? Where are we calling in from? We got Scott out of Murfreesboro here? No. Who we got out here today? Here we go, Scotty B. Okay, I mean by B I mean H. But hey, welcome in, Scott. Good to see you, brother. Appreciate you. I'm excited to have you here, my friends. Let us know where you are calling in from. Now, we got a really fun show that we're going to get started on in just a couple of seconds, and super excited to have you all here coming in to the diner. Friends, I got to go to an actual diner this past weekend. I was in Pennsylvania, and it was glorious. It was everything I remember it being. All right, friends, let's get this back on the couch. All right, no worries, brother. No worries. Appreciate you, Scott. No worries, dude. You stay for as long as you can. You know I know that life. All right, my friends, let's jump in. Welcome, everybody, to Diner Talks with James. I'm James. Super excited to have you here today for another episode. This is our 18th episode of Diner Talks with James, which is pretty amazing. And my friends, I just got to go to an actual diner for the first time since February, January. I was back. I had my first in-person engagement as a speaker since March 7th. It was so lovely to hear laughter again. It's been so quiet. So quiet. My friends, we have an amazing guest coming up. Is Peter Bielagus, one of the funniest men that I know, but I won't say that when he's on camera. But just a great man, and I'm super excited for you to meet him. But friends, come on, we got standards here, y'all. It's Diner Talks with James. Let's start out with tonight's top three. Here we go. Tina and I just bought a house. We closed on it on Monday. I can't believe it. It's one of the most grown-up things I've ever done. To get married, you need to sign 2 pieces of paper. To buy a house, you need to sign 200. Anyway, that's fine. But either way, here are the top 3 things I'm most excited about having a house. First off, I'm excited to have a backyard. I'm excited to have a backyard where I can do things like grilling and things like that. And your boy loves to get out there. I'm excited to buy a smoker. I'm out here getting this brisket going, y'all. But most importantly, just to have a backyard to go to, because this apartment life during COVID has been some garbage. Okay, next thing that I'm excited about is just having a dedicated office. I mean, everything happens at the kitchen table here, and everything that we do, it's an apartment. We don't have a spare eating area. I'm just excited to have a place to call my own, my friends. And last but not least, I'm excited with being done with moving. Moving sucks. All right, next. Peter Bielagus is from New England. And so I decided to come up with a couple of New England things to talk about. So first off, these are my top 3 New England towns that I have been to. Number 1 is Camden, Maine. It is adorable. It is picturesque. There are schooners. And also, I once got to go out on a lobster boat with a lobster boat captain, go ahead and picking up lobster traps. It was an iconic memory. Number 2, I'm sorry, Peter, but Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Peter's current town, is my second favorite New England town. But the history there is fascinating. It's just a really awesome town to walk around. It is beautiful. But my favorite town in New England is Newburyport, Massachusetts. It's just iconic. Everything is brick. It's beautiful. It's just stunning. The restaurants are incredible, and lots of cute shops, you know? I mean, any place that has a nice gentleman's shop. I mean, don't mind if I do. A haberdashery, you say? I say. And last but not least, in the top three is these are Peter is a financial expert. I don't know if he'd call himself that, but I will. And but these are 3 dumb ways that I have spent my money in the past. Here we go. The first thing is, in college, I bought one of those reoccurring magazine subscriptions. And I put it on my first ever credit card that I ever had. And then I stopped paying the credit card, and that affected mine and, unfortunately, my parents' credit score. Thanks, predatory magazine company. I fell for it. But what I learned in Motor Trend was invaluable. Next. I recently, this happened recently during a moment of, recently isn't like 5 years ago, I bought a vacation package because it sounded so good. I was like, this is incredible. I'm going to buy this vacation package. It was like a 2 or 3 day cruise off the coast of Florida, and you get to go out, come back, they put you up, everything. It all sounded too good to be true, probably because it was too good to be true. And so that was cool. That was a waste of money. And the last but not least is that I went on vacation when I was younger. I went to Cancun with my family. It was one of the stops on a cruise. Not this cruise, a much different cruise. I was 14. We went to Cancun. And I was in there. We were walking around the shops of Cancun. I was with my cousins who were all older than me. No, it wasn't spring break. It wasn't creepy. It was just a lovely time in Cancun. And I saw this gentleman selling some hoodies that I really liked. They were like those hemp-looking hoodies. And I said, I really want one of those hoodies. And I learned that you could haggle in the markets. Even as a 14-year-old, your boy had game. And so I was up there, and I was like, listen, all I got is $15. That's it. The guy was like 25. That's all I got. I was like 15. That's all I got is 15. And then I learned, if you're going to haggle, you walk away. And so I walked away. He said, fine, we can do 15. I was like, cool. Can you break it 20? And we did that. So I got this sweet hoodie. I was so proud of myself. My brothers were proud of me. And they were like, oh, shoot, James, show us the hoodie that you bought. And I showed it to them. I held them up proudly. I had 2 geckos dancing on it. And it turns out, as my brothers told me, Mom and Dad are going to kill you. I said, why? He said, take a look at what those geckos are doing again. And my friends, they were not cha-chaing. They were doggy styling. Okay, tonight's top three, my friends. That's what we got. So I'm glad I have a Cancun story. It's just very different than most people's. So, my friends, tonight's guest is the one, the only Peter Bielagus. He and I have known each other for a handful of years on the speaker circuit. He's an incredible man. I went to one of his sessions because I wanted to learn. It was at a conference for students, and he was talking about financial literacy, and I said, I need a little bit of help with that. See previous comments. And so I went to the session, and he is the only person that I've ever gone and seen who makes financial literacy exciting, sticky, approachable, and he really made me believe that maybe I could tame this beast, which was irresponsibility. But after that session, I approached him because he was also hysterical, and he and I have become great friends. He is someone who I just respect an incredible amount. He is an author, and I'm really excited for him to tell you about. He's got 2 books that he's working on, and they couldn't be more different, but I'm excited for him to talk to you about those. We may talk about clam chowder at some point here as well. You're welcome in advance. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Peter Bielagus.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Did I read that perfectly correctly?
Perfect. That was great. That was
Excellent.
Absolutely great. Yes.
Excellent.
You earned your full fee on that one.
Yes. Peter, what's up, brother?
I love that story about the dancing geckos. I've never heard that one before. Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
There you go, Ashley. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, the dancing geckos. Yeah, my parents weren't happy. I still own that. I've literally never worn it.
Okay.
But I still own it.
Why. The question is why, but yeah, go ahead.
Why haven't I worn it, or why do I still own it? Both valid questions.
Exactly. Yes. Let's take them one at a time.
Yeah, for sure. Why do I still own it? Shame. And it's a great story.
Sure. Yes.
It now smells horrible.
Okay.
But because now, I mean, at this point, it's 24 years old or something like that.
Sure.
And why haven't? And what was the other question? I forgot our 2 questions.
Why haven't you worn it?
Why haven't I worn it? Shame is the answer to that.
Okay. Sure. Yep.
Yeah, am I going to wear that around high school? I'd probably get kicked off, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was.
Where could you?
Yeah.
I mean, what I would do is maybe just Google your local Dancing Geckos chapter, and then I think you'd find a bunch of folks there that would have the same shirt, right?
Yeah, finally. You know, it's funny. I'm doing a free webinar tomorrow on how to make friends as an adult. And you know, I hadn't looked up the Dancing Geckos chapter here, Peter. I may need to cancel the webinar because I may have figured it out.
Right. I get.
Yeah.
I would love to see you in that sweatshirt someday. It's got to have a purpose. It didn't just come into your life for no reason. It came into your life for some reason.
For some reason, yeah. I mean, maybe it was this moment right here.
Could be, sure.
This serious clickbait moment.
Yeah, one day you were like, I need to tell a stupid purchase story.
Yep.
I'm getting this now.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So can I give you a really stupid purchase story that I did?
I would love that.
So I can't remember the show exactly, but I think it was the show The Wire. Okay, the HBO show The Wire, and I think that was the show. I was on Amazon Prime, and I was watching, just clicking around, and I was like, I saw that show when it first came out, and I loved it. It was on Amazon Prime, and I'm like, you know what? I really like this show. I'm going to buy episode 1 for $2.99. So I bought it. Love that. And then I bought the second one. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy the season. And over the next 2 days, I watched The Wire. I just binge watched season 1 that I bought for $29.
Yeah.
Only to find out it was for free on Netflix, which I also subscribed to. So after I watched the whole thing and paid for the whole thing, I was on Netflix. I'm like, oh, let's see what's on Netflix. The Wire.
The Wire. Cool. Yeah. Cool. But you supported those starving artists, Peter.
I did, yes. Yeah. Right, who are on their 15th round of royalties, yes.
Yeah, The Wire. Cast of The Wire is struggling.
Right, yeah.
For sure.
To spend their money, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. We brought up high school, Peter, that this happened to me in high school. What were you like back in high school? If I were to meet a young Peter Bielagus, what was that man like?
Absolutely no change at all, especially in terms of appearance. I was the guy always cracking jokes. I was in high school. I wouldn't want to say I was an athlete, but I sort of had that Forrest Gump twang to me that I could run really fast. So like I played varsity lacrosse, but it was not because I was very good at lacrosse. It was because I could run fast. And they were like, this is a very specific position you're going to play, Peter. Yeah. And we just need you to run and get the ball. And then you can just get off the field once we've gotten the ball and we'll take it from here kind of thing. So I played a very unusual position in lacrosse called a long stick midfield. And it was just, that's the position you give to somebody who can run fast. But I did a lot of theater in high school, which was one of those things that I know we're going to talk more about this, that you do it and you enjoy it at the time or whatever, and you don't realize just how much it will help you later on in life. Cause that's pretty much what I do for a living now, or I did until the world shut down.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I tell people like, what do you do? I was like, well, I used to go to crowded rooms of people that were breathing on each other and try to make them laugh. Now I try to get my dog to go outside a few times a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's interesting because in the midst of this pandemic, you have also found creativity, and you have also kind of used it as an opportunity and not just as a, well, I guess I'll just wait till the world comes back kind of moment.
Sure.
And the first thing I want to talk about is, yes, we're going to talk about some of the awesome knowledge that you have and tap into that knowledge bank around finances and whatnot, because it's I'd be curious to see how you got into that. But we're going to come back to that in a minute. But I love it because you are, if you look yourself up on the internet, you are very wealth focused. In other words, you're teaching individuals about what to do with wealth and you're providing tips. A lot of your seminars are on it, right? And so I love this fun side of Peter Bielagus that has come out, where you're writing or have written now a fiction novel.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Where did that come about? And how did was that something that was kind of always, was that the thespian Peter that just kind of popped back up? Or like, how did that, where did that come from?
Well, that's a great question. So it was always there. And sometimes I think sometimes maybe you choose the path and sometimes the path chooses you. And I knew that I always wanted to be a writer. And it just happened that in college, the idea of writing a nonfiction book on money management for college students kind of bubbled up. And the world around me sort of grabbed onto that idea of the book and said, this is a good idea to write this nonfiction book, go with it. And so I did, and I wrote a nonfiction book on money management for college students, and I sold that to a major publisher and went on to become a professional speaker. But it was a couple of years ago when I was cleaning out my parents' garage, some of the stuff that I had in my parents' garage, and I opened this box, and it was filled with all the stuff that was related to my first nonfiction book. Okay, and at the time, for whatever reason, this was almost 18 years ago, okay, that book sold. And at the time, I don't know why, but I was in the habit of printing out every email that I sent to my agent. This was back in the days of, well, we're never going to send that many emails. This will never become overwhelming. So I printed out every email that I sent to my agent and every email that he sent to me. And I found this email 2 years ago.
So you're the reason why we now have to put that at the bottom of our emails.
Exactly. I am responsible. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yes. Some of those even say, hello, Peter, that means you. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So a couple of years ago.
So I'm going through these emails, and this was a couple of years ago, just cleaning out my parents' garage. And I was like, oh, that's one of my boxes. That's one of my boxes. And I opened this box, and I'm looking at these emails that are in a binder. And it's kind of fun seeing the progression of the sale of my first book. Of like, my agent said, we have a meeting, we are hoping to get an offer, we have an offer, we counter offered, kind of that progression. And once the deal was done, I found an email that I wrote to him, and I said, thank you for representing me on this book. I'm so glad we sold it. I'm very excited to do that. And I kind of went and thanked him for the whole journey and everything.
Yeah.
But I did also add in this email that I found 2 years ago that was over 18 years old. I wrote to him and I said, I want you to know that my real dream is to write fiction. And I would like to talk. Yes. And I would like to talk with you about that, at some time in the future. And then life came along and sort of pushed me, or I ran with it, whatever, this idea of talking about money management and writing books on money management. And I went in that direction for 18 years. And 2 years ago, I found that box, and in that box was that email that I sent to my agent. And I still have the same literary agent, almost 20 years with this guy.
Wow, that's a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, very blessed to have that. And I had this idea for a novel for maybe 6 or so years, and it was the thing I worked on when I was done all my other stuff, which meant I didn't really work on it all that much.
Yeah,
because when are you done all your other stuff? Sure. It was kind of below laundry and cleaning the bathroom.
Right.
That's when I would get to it.
Yeah.
And once I read that email, I said, Peter, that you didn't just find that email. This email, like the dancing gecko sweatshirt, serves a purpose.
Yes.
And that email, that email was like, okay, this thing now needs to become the first thing you do every day, rather than the last thing you do every day. And so over the past 2 years, I've really been cranking on it, and it is now in layout, which means the glue is drying.
How hard was that to make that switch, right? A lot of people have the idea of like, hey, this is a dream I had, but they talk about it just like that in past tense, right? But you decided, no, I'm going to move this to present and future tense. Like, this is a book I'm writing, and I will write, and or whatnot. I mean, how hard was it for you to basically, because you have this well-known reputation and clients that book you year in and year out, and you're growing the business, and you have so many things that have gone so well for you in the money management sector, for you to be like, yeah, but this,
Right.
but this actually, right? I mean, that's something
Sure.
that so many people are always like, I've always wanted to do this, but I'm too deep into this. So I guess I'll just never do that anymore. But you defied that. How did you do it?
So the first thing I realized is it just has to be first priority. And for me, first priority meant first thing in the morning. For some people that might be the last thing of the day or whatever, but for me, it was, I'm waking up an hour early, and this is the first thing that I do. To be honest, I have no idea when it comes out whether it will confuse people about like, wait a minute, I thought this guy talks about finance and now he's written this, murder mystery book, and like what? But it's one of those things that there's never going to be a good time to do it. You have to realize that. I don't know any of your listeners in detail, but I know every single one of them probably does not have this magical period of time that's going to arrive in 3 months or 6 months or 2 years. There's never going to be a good time to do it. So the time to make it happen is now, and just carving out. I originally set this little goal for myself of 3 pages a day. And, sometimes those pages, which I will probably never let anyone read, were horrible. They were just like, literally I would type like, the main character flies to Colorado for some reason. Like, that's what I would literally type,
This is gold.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I needed Salinger.
Right, exactly. Because I needed him in Colorado for the next thing, but I was like, I have no idea why he goes. Once he gets there, he figures this out, but why does he go in the first place? So I would just write like, the main character's name is Stan. I would just write Stan flies to Colorado and finds something that makes him do this. And that was part of my 3 pages. That's awesome. And eventually from that, the novel emerged.
That's so cool, man. That's beautiful. And I like the way you put it, is that, the way that you got there was by setting small goals. That's kind of like this, right? This big book that's out right now, Atomic Habits, that everybody's talking about. And that's kind of what they talk about in that book. It's like, big changes start from small changes. And so that idea of just starting this small, it's like, I'm going to write 3 pages, or maybe it's not even 3 pages. Right? Maybe it's like, I know for me, with the book that I'm going to be working on, my goal is 500 words a day. And so whatever that is, I don't even know how many pages that is. I know it's one Microsoft Word document, but that's all I know. But that idea of like, how do you don't turn the ship by like swinging the wheel all the way around, right? You gotta slowly bring it around. Like, it just doesn't turn.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I learned, and I have read Atomic Habits, and I think it's a great book. I highly recommend it. The other thing that at least I learned in that daily writing was it's okay to be terrible. My goal was 3 pages. I never said my goal was 3 good pages. Or 3 well-written pages, or 3 grammatically correct pages. It was just that 3 pages. And by kind of sticking to that and not getting hung up on, is this any good? Or does this even make sense? Or where does this even fit in? None of that I concerned myself with. It was just get those 3 pages in. And a lot of it was, cut out eventually. But by keeping that goal, that's what made it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's so cool. I'm super excited for that to come out. I think that's going to feel really surreal to hold something that you talked about however many years ago, and like, here you are, boom. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
brother. I'm pumped for you.
Well, thank you. I'm excited as well. It's been a long time coming. Very long time coming.
Sure, for sure. Peter, it's interesting because like we said, you have made a lot of your reputation has been built on being someone who works in money management, but that's not really necessarily where you got your start. Didn't you get your start as some sort of an actor? Did that happen? When did that come into your world?
So it came into, so what I used to do for probably about 4 years, part-time, but it paid enough that it allowed me take a lot of time off and focus on writing my first book. But I used to be a professional voiceover artist, and I would do the voiceovers for corporate training films. So if you get a job or back in the day, if you got a job at Dunkin' Donuts, CVS Pharmacy, Bed Bath & Beyond, American Eagle Outfitters, Boar's Head Beef, and this one assisted living facility in Massachusetts, you would hear my voice. These were corporate training films. So like when you get a job at, say, a Dunkin' Donuts or something, what they do is they sit you down and they make you watch like 15 hours of video. Like, what do you do with a surly customer? What do you do if a customer comes into the restaurant or the coffee shop who is blind? Or what do you do if somebody wants their money back? All those kind of situations. How do you make a cappuccino? How do you slice a bagel? How much cream cheese do you put on? And so I was the voiceover for all of those kinds of things. And I did that for about 4 years, working for a company in the Boston area that specialized in corporate training films.
That's incredible.
I was
delightfully random. Like, now, did somebody come up to you while you were at a Dunkin' Donuts and be like, "Hey, that you got some chops over there, Bielagus. Why don't you step into the booth for a minute?" Like, how did that even happen? Or were you like, "Yo, I think I can do this"? Like, how does one become a voiceover artist?
So what happened to me is I was at a party and I met this guy that I stood next to him at the party, and I said something to him, and his voice was just pure gold. Like, just whoa. And I said,
voice.
it really was. And I said something like, "You should sell cars with that voice." And he said something like, I do sell cars with this voice. And he mentioned that he does some car commercials with his voice. And then I asked him about it, and it turns out he had an agent who like books him to do these things. And he said I should go talk to her. So I talked to her, and I did do a reading for her, and she told me the good news and the bad news. And the bad news is that, yeah, I know. The bad news is that my voice was not good enough for commercials. That was the bad news. The good news was she said that I read very well and I could do corporate training films. And the good news with corporate training films is while a commercial is maybe 60 seconds, corporate training films are 15 hours. So there's just a lot more work available. And yeah, I did that for about 4 years.
That is unbelievably random. And that was a side hustle of yours.
That was, yeah. At the time, I was doing a bunch of different stuff in the financial world. I was working for H&R Block. I eventually started teaching for H&R Block. I was teaching for New Hampshire Housing. And while I was writing my first book on money management, and I got to do all these like little jobs in the financial world to get a lot of experience very quickly in the financial world. And it was the voiceover stuff that really, put some fuel in the tank, if you will, to keep that all going.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's so awesome. And I can only imagine that helped you in your future career of being a speaker. Obviously you don't write your speeches out word for word and then deliver them through a sultry voice that was a soundproof booth. Now you do because COVID.
Yes, of course.
But still, how did that impact your ability to deliver a message on a stage?
Well, so I had a lot of, I guess, paid voice training because a lot of times you're in a studio with a director as well as the audio engineer. And I was reading, I love your comment, Adam. Absolutely. No problem. I was reading the scripts that I was reading were, like I said, like how to make a cappuccino, how to slice a bagel, how to mop a floor after you spilled a vanilla shake on it. Right. Totally boring, monotonous stuff. but you had to make it at least somewhat interesting. And I had a director who would tell me when to pause and, emphasize cream cheese. This sentence is all about the cream cheese, literally, and I'm like, okay, it is about the cream cheese, and
build
sort of
towards cream cheese.
just,
Crescendo, boy.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, you wouldn't believe some of the direction I got about things like, I remember one word I didn't want to say, but they forced me to say it, was the word slushy. So there was you want the drink to be slushy. And I'm like, can we change that word? And they basically tell me that the script is written by these writers, but it's actually approved by the legal team.
Yeah.
And that the legal team was not having slushy cut out of there. So the word slushy stayed. But yeah, so I learned a lot about emphasizing words.
Yeah.
Emphasizing words, when to pause, how to read at a certain pace. And certainly all that helped years later when I started making a living on stage.
Yeah, for sure, dude. That's awesome. I love it. But while you were doing the voiceover stuff, that's when you were also kind of in the midst of the early stages of your financial, I guess, financial advisory career
Sure.
and whatnot. You said that you worked at HR Block for a while. What was it about? What was it about money? Or I guess wealth, or the management of it, or the impact of it? What was it about? Yeah, we'll just stick with that. What was it about money that drew you to that as a potential career choice?
Sure. Yeah. So when I was in college, I got credit cards because they would give them to me. I went to school during what I call the golden age of credit cards, where if you sign this form, they'll give you a coupon for free pizza. And, the form is a credit card form, but I was just like, did somebody say pizza? And, so if you want me to sign your form, and I get a free pizza, I'll sign your form. So I had about 8 credit cards, I think, my first year of college.
So my story really resonated with you earlier.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I had 8 credit cards, or another way to say that, or the way I thought of it, is I had 8 free pizzas,
Sure.
or I think I got a Frisbee too from one guy and some candy bars. And I had this money, and I charged on my credit cards, and I didn't really understand how they worked. I just, I charged $100, and they only wanted me to pay 15 of it back. And I was like, okay, sure, here's your 15. And then I would charge 200, and they only wanted maybe $40 back. Yeah. No problem. And eventually it got to $5,000 that I owed. And it came about that one minimum payment came in, and I couldn't even make the minimum payment on one card. And I knew that was a problem. If I owe them this much, I can't even pay this much. That's a big problem. So I ended up reading a couple books on personal finance, and very quickly 2 things hit me very hard. Number one was how much potential a young person had when it comes to money management because of the power of compound interest. And number 2, just how many other college students were exactly like me. We teach this a little bit better now, but at the time we didn't teach it in schools. Right. So you kind of figure it out on your own, and a lot of us figure it out real quick when the collection agent calls and tells you they're gonna ruin your credit score, and you're like, oh, I have a credit score. What is that? And then that's how you learn.
Am I winning?
Right. And I had my phone shut off because I didn't pay it, and so I started to learn that there's a lot of potential if you start young, and then there's a lot of people just like me. And so that's what kind of inspired me to start helping other people with finance as I was trying to get my own finances in order. And it's just been one of those things. I mean, the wonderful thing about personal finance is that, it's kind of it's kind of the opposite of, say, working out or learning Japanese. Yeah. It'd be great if you could go to the gym once and lose 20 pounds. It'd be great if you could go to one class on Japanese and be fluent in Japanese, but you can't. In the world of personal finance, there are some things that you do, and you never have to do them again, or you have to just do them once a year, and it will take care of everything. Mm-hmm. And I just realized that the more I talked about it, the more I realized how many people needed to hear this message, and it just kind of exploded from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And as you have been able to go around the country and teach it, it's got to feel pretty cool to know the impact that you're making, because I think we could both agree that financial literacy is something that is not taught in schools and needs to be, right? Like,
Sure.
You could teach me macro and microeconomics, but you didn't teach me my credit score. You didn't teach me about 401ks or this or like any of that. Like, you didn't really teach me about saving, right? And so generational wealth, right? Like anything. None of those things are in the conversation. And so the fact that you can get brought in to these institutions that aren't teaching that and provide that message, I mean, how has that felt for you? What have you heard from audiences, and like what kind of feedback have you gotten?
Well, the wonderful thing is that in doing what we do is that you'll get feedback right after your program. Then you'll get it a couple days after your program, then a week or whatever, and it'll die down. But what I love about what I do is that every morning when I check my email, I just have no idea if there's going to be an email from someone that says, Peter, I saw you 5 years ago at my college, first year orientation, and now I'm getting married. So I have this question about personal finance, or I'm trying to buy a house. Is it true you have to do this? And that just really means that, I spent maybe an hour with these folks.
Yep. And
maybe some of them didn't even come up and talk to me. We never had a connection except for that 1 hour presentation. But 5 years later, they knew to reach out to me and seek to improve their financial lives. So that's just an incredibly rewarding part of what we do.
That's badass, brother.
Yeah.
That's what that is right there. And a credit to who you are as a teacher as well. And that's awesome. So you have all these fun nuggets about the financial world and about, different things and whatnot. Do you have a random fact or a random story about finances that you'd love to share?
You mean what's
a weird thing that that like a lot of people don't know?
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll give you a fun tip. How's that?
Great. Yeah, that's perfect.
Work? Okay.
That's probably what I was supposed to ask for.
So going back to what I was mentioning earlier, it would be great if you could go to the gym once and suddenly be in perfect shape. So this tip shows two important parts of personal finance. One is that there are things we can just do immediately and they will change our lives, even if it's just a little bit. And number two, a lot of personal finance, you've already heard it, but you just didn't take immediate action on it. And so this is a great thing that I love to do with folks. And that is this website. And if you can throw it up, James, it's a great website to throw up. It is the website unclaimed.org, the word unclaimed.org.
Unclaimed.org.
Unclaimed.org is the website of the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators. And these are the folks that work in your unclaimed.org. .org, yes.
I'm a great listener.
It's all right. As long as you don't have a podcast, that's fine. That should be fine. So this is the website of the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators. James, as you and I know, there's an association for everything, and this is theirs. These are the folks that work in the your state's Department of Revenue Unclaimed Property Division. And what that division is that's when, James, you're in an apartment right now. You just bought a house. Congratulations. So you're going to be moving out of your apartment and you're going to be canceling your internet there, your electricity, your, whatever else there. And then you're going to be moving to your house. If the deposit maybe that you put down for your cable or your internet doesn't follow you to your house, if the mail doesn't catch up with you, then what the cable company is going to do is they're going to send that deposit to your state's unclaimed property division saying, we're looking for James. This is his cable deposit. We tried to send it along to the forwarding address. It didn't get there. It came back. So we're sending it to these guys. So if you have any unclaimed money in your name, whether that's an inheritance or a refund on a cable bill or an electric bill or a cell phone bill or a bank account you closed with some money in it, all of that money is going to wind up on that website. Okay. First time I went there, I had $17.77 in my name.
Oh, that's why you bought dinner.
Exactly. Yes. Last time I had over $500 in my name.
Really?
Yeah. And I have worked with audiences that have had several $1,000s in their name, audience members. And again, while people are watching the show, they can check right now and see if they have any money in their name. You can type in your name in any state that you've ever lived in. And the other cool thing is you can type in your friends' names. I can type in your name in Minnesota.
That's kind of crazy. You can look up other people's stuff.
Yes, you can. You can't claim their money, but you can certainly let them know, hey, you have $500, claim it, and then get me a plane ticket to come visit you, something like that. You can.
Yeah.
And so this is a website we just need to go to every year for the rest of our lives. And anybody who's moving, exactly, yeah. And anybody who's moving around a lot, military folks, college students, whatever, if you're moving around a lot, is a great website to check, because there's a good chance you've left money behind somewhere.
And so you reach out to them, say that's my money. And obviously they have to do some sort of verification, whatnot. And then you just get a check in the mail, a month later, something like that.
Yeah. Depending on how much money there is, there's different hoops you need to jump through. Like even for my $500 amount, I had to photocopy both sides of my license. And I had to get a sign a form and get it notarized. That was that. If you had $50,000 or $500,000 in your name, you might have to actually go down to your state's treasury department building and meet with some people for the larger amounts. But for the small ones, usually it's a license, maybe 2 forms of ID, notarized form, something like that.
Yeah, I love that.
That's pretty fun.
That's delightfully random and super helpful. Peter, I want to talk to you a little bit more about some, financial, let's call them tips or misunderstandings or things like that, because I'm just curious to pick your brain as, we enter this world of maturity. And so let's get a little bit deeper into that.
Oh, not these two again over here. Okay, all right, break it up, you two. Enough of this here now. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. You're not smiling now, are you?
I think that sums it up perfectly. I don't see how anyone could argue with that.
Gosh.
If speaking of voiceovers, speaking of untapped voiceover artists,
Peter, that angry swan tells us that we've reached the fun segment in the show. And no one ever really knows what's going on with that. And it just makes me so happy to put up there randomly. And so I appreciate it. But let's go to this, jump into this segment first, Peter. This segment is called Things You Didn't Know About Me That You Now Are Grateful That You Do. One thing you should notice, Peter, I know this is your first time on the show, is that the name of the segment changes every time, but it's the same general idea.
Okay. All right. I like it. Yep.
So here is I'll go first, a random fact about me, and then we'll ping pong for a little bit. So a random fact about me is that, I once owned the fastest United States production car made in 1987. It was a Buick Grand National. It was black. It had T-tops, and it beat the Corvette that year. Fun random fact.
Wow. Okay.
That's right, Peter. If you didn't think I was that attractive before, huh? Come on now. Bonjour.
Yeah. So and you mentioned during that magazine scam you were involved with on the wrong end, Motor Trend. So are you a big motor guy? I didn't.
It's a random thing about me that most people don't know. But if you were to look at my Instagram, a significant portion of accounts that I follow of people I don't know are either nature photographers or different car sources or blogs or car owners or things like that. I've loved cars. Yeah, my mom, I used to ask my mom if we can go sit outside, and I would tell her what kind of cars drove by when I was younger. and I would be able to know. It was a point in my life where I could tell you almost every car by their taillights at night. And so yeah, super. Yeah, okay. But it's funny. I know a lot of cars, and I know a lot about brands of cars and things like that, and why each car is significant. But you put me under a hood, and I'm just like, yep, that's where the engine goes. And that's about what I know. Change the oil, replace the fluids, and put some gas in it. So
gotcha. Okay, well, that's more than I do. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. The last time I opened the hood, I realized it was the trunk after about 5 minutes. So I'm like, okay. So a random fact about me that you did not know, or whatever the title is this week.
Yeah, for sure.
That you did. So I am terrified of the sight of blood.
Terrified of the sight of blood?
Yes. So, and I would throw into that, I don't like needles at all. So it is a major operation when I have to go get a blood test. Because I have to lie down flat.
Yeah.
And then when I get up, I need, depending on their size, 2 or 3 nurses or medical assistants to walk me back to the waiting room. Then they don't allow me to leave the waiting room for about 20 minutes. Then I have to sign a form that says I'm okay to drive before they let me walk out of the waiting room.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a lot of questions.
Sure. I got a lot of stories.
Did something bad happen when you were younger that triggered this fear, or has it just kind of always been something that's been a part of your world?
I don't know what the earliest recollection that I have of it was in the movie theater. I saw the movie Little Shop of Horrors, which, as you know, starring Rick Moranis. Yeah, exactly. Starring Rick Moranis, and obviously there's this plant from outer space that drinks blood. And there was a scene where he like pricked his finger, so it wasn't like a lot of like the blood gushing, Zack Snyder 300 Sparta battle doesn't bother me, but it's like the stuff that looks like real, or the small amounts of it really do. And I remember in Little Shop of Horrors, I just was feeling dizzy. I walked into the bathroom, and then I woke up on the bathroom floor of the movie theater.
What? How old were you?
Oh, I don't even know. But I was a kid. My mom was in the movie theater with me and my brother. It was me, my mom, and my brother. Yeah. So I fell on the bathroom floor, and I woke up, and I didn't even know. I had never fainted before. I didn't even know what that was. I'm just like, and then I explained it to my mom, and she was like, I think you fainted. And then I fainted again in 6th grade when I went to the next school that I was going to. It happened to be, as luck would have it, they were watching a film, a video on the circulatory system. Sure. And I passed out there visiting the school.
Just visiting the school?
Just visiting the school. I was like, I said, I have to leave this room. And then in the hallway, I passed out again from the sight of blood.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yes.
So this is something, go ahead.
Sorry. So the kicker one, or the funniest one, I guess, maybe not at the time, is that I was on a first date.
Oh, no.
And I saw the movie Interview with a Vampire with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. Sure. And I didn't pass out, but so on this first date, I literally, it gets to a certain scene and I'm feeling, very queasy. And I literally just get up and without saying anything to the girl I was with. I didn't say anything. I just was like, I gotta go. And I leave, and I am like breaking out into this cold sweat. And I go outside. It was maybe like October. I know it was the fall. And outside the movie theater, I lay down on the sidewalk and unbutton my shirt to just like cool down. And I'm just lying on the sidewalk with my shirt down. My date is in the movie, not knowing where did this guy go? Okay, is he going to drive me home, or did he just take off halfway through the date? The manager of the movie theater comes out and he says, "Sir, do you need us to call you an ambulance?" And I was like, no, I just need a few more minutes and then I'll go back in. Surprised to say, James, I actually did get a second date.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, that's
Still
right.
got it.
I don't know, right? So yes, I am terrified of the sight of blood. Yes.
Wow. Chest to pavement outside of the movie theater. That's incredible. That's also fascinating that, getting blood, that's something that's only going to happen more in our lives, right?
Sure.
As we get older. And so it's fascinating. At this point, I would assume the hospital or the GP that you go to just kind of like knows the deal. And like, all right, Bielagus is coming in. Let's send the squad in.
The last time I had a blood draw was this very specific blood test that I got it was just this one woman and she was amazing. A lot of times though, with my insurance, I go to this place and you don't even need an appointment. You just go in and so it's always different people. And when I go in, I just have to say like, I'm afraid of the sight of blood. I don't like, right. And they say like, oh yeah, we see that all the time. I'm like, okay. Right. And then, so yeah.
That is a fun fact.
It's quite a production. Yeah. We got to film it at some point, but I just haven't had the courage to do that yet.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. Normally when guests share a story, I'll then be like, oh, that makes me think of this story. I will now not do that for you.
Right.
Just really for liabilities reasons.
Sure. Yeah.
We are recording, so it would be worth it. But wow, that's amazing, Peter. Thank you for sharing that for sure. It's we have all these random facts about ourselves, and I just think it's fun to share them. And I think that one of the things that I've appreciated about our friendship is that whenever we're together, it's a lot of laughs, right? And a lot of tomfoolery and whatnot. But also, you are an incredible resource. And one of the things that happened that this really blew me away and forever grateful is that when Tina and I got engaged, you got on the phone and just called me out of the blue, and you said, "Hey, you're getting married. What I want to do is I would love to offer you all just a couple of sessions or just conversations just to make sure that you get on the right track financially as a couple and do things early as opposed to later." And I don't know, man, that's the kind of thing that like friends don't do. And it just speaks to your character as a man. And so I can't thank you enough for that moment. And I like doing it publicly to embarrass you. But seriously, man, thank you for that. But there was just so much wisdom inside of you. And I'm curious because, a lot of the listeners that are often here, or I feel like most individuals are kind of floating somewhere in their 30s, 40s, and stuff like that. My parents are usually here as well, but a lot of people are gearing up for retirement, and just like the idea of planning for it and whatnot. And so, I don't know if there's any tips and tricks. You told me you're working on a second book. If you could tell us a little bit about the second book and maybe some nuggets from there that you've picked up.
Sure. The second book is what it's about is about maximizing your retirement income stream. Okay. And the thing that we're all trying to do, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, is you're probably trying to save as much money as you possibly can in some sort of tax account, like a 401k or an IRA or something like that. Mm-hmm. We're trying to just get this big nest egg. We use that term all the time, nest egg. And that's great. And that feels great. Like, look how much I've saved, or look how well the market's done, or look how much it's grown. But when you get to retirement, we're all going to face something that's pretty ugly. And the best way to think about this thing that we're going to face is to picture yourself on a desert island. And if you picture yourself on a desert island and imagine you have plenty of food, with banana trees and you can fish and all that. But on this desert island, you are only able to take 1 barrel of water from your ship. So you got plenty of food, but you only have this 1 barrel of water. The question is, how much water are you going to drink every day? Mm-hmm. And the answer is, well, you're probably going to drink the minimum amount every day because you don't know when it's going to rain and you don't know when you're going to get rescued. So you have to assume I might be on this island, Tom Hanks style. I might be here a while. Okay. Yeah. So I might be here a while. So I'm just going to take the smallest sips possible. Well, when you get to retirement, you have that same problem because you don't know how the market's going to perform year after year. In other words, you don't know the rain, the weather, and then you don't know when you're going to get rescued, or you don't know how long you're going to live. So you might live for 5 years in your retirement or 45 years in your retirement. And since you don't know, we all have to plan as if we're going to live 45 years, which means we all have to take small sips from our retirement nest egg. We got to take little amounts out. And there's this thing that financial advisors don't like to talk about for obvious reasons, and it's called the safe withdrawal rate. And that is when you have a nest egg of $1 million or $500,000 or whatever your nest egg is, how much can you take out safely every year for your retirement to ensure you don't run out of money? And there was a guy that none of us have ever heard of, but his name is William Bengen. And William Bengen in the 1990s, he said, you can take out 4%. And that became the 4% rule. And that was cool in the 90s, like all the other things that were cool in the 90s.
So many things.
Exactly. But a lot of those things may not be cool right now, okay? Because,
so I should take off my Jordache jeans?
Exactly. Yeah, sure. Put that flip phone away for sure. So now we live in an environment that's drastically different because of two things. Interest rates are lower and have been for a very long time, and people are just living longer. So now that 4% rate is now 3% or even lower, as much as down to 2.5%. So if you think about that, if you have saved $1 million, that's extremely impressive. But the safe withdrawal rate in the current market says that you might only be able to take 25,000 to 30,000 of that million out every single year to ensure you don't run out of money. And you can look this up it's on the retirement calculators, but you just have this big pile of money and you have to take those small sips because you don't know about those unknowns. And so what the book talks about is, well, how do we get around some of those unknowns to get that that withdrawal rate up to a more reasonable amount without necessarily saving more money?
Right, sure. Interesting. So in the book, then, do you make mattress recommendations for different mattresses? Like, what's the best mattress that holds it but still gives you the lumbar support? Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So, what it does is it kind of, people will say, a lot of people are their retirement is all in the markets. So the bond market, the real estate market, the stock market, and the markets are great for growth. But where the markets struggle is taking that nest egg and converting it into income. So when you're retiring, what you really don't need is more money. People think, I need more money. That's not actually what you need. You need more income. And so again, if you had that big barrel on the desert island, and if I suddenly showed up and said, well, here's a slightly bigger barrel, you still have the same problem. I've got to take small sips because I still don't know when I'm going to be rescued and what the weather's going to be like. Right. Same thing is true with your retirement. If you've saved $1 million, saving another 100,000 is not necessarily going to mean that you can, increase that withdrawal rate. It's going to just mean that it's now 3% of 1.1 million rather than 3% of $1 million. And so there are some other products to maybe take a look at that are not in the financial world, but are in the insurance world. And, those can do some things that some of the financial products cannot. And I think what the book is about is really saying it's not that this is better than this or this is better than this. It's saying that the financial products have certain advantages, the insurance products have certain advantages. So let's match up the advantages and the disadvantages so we can just have a higher income stream in retirement.
Fascinating. So but actually, right? Because everybody just says put in the 401k, and it's like people talk about it like it's a whatchamacallit, a crock pot, right? Set it and forget it. It's low and slow. It'll be fine, and so, but that's not necessarily the move. So, does that mean typically when you are employed in a standard 9-to-5 job, you have the ability to set how much of your income goes into whatever the matching program is for that company. Would you still recommend that people do up to what the company would match? Otherwise, you're giving money away. Like, it's important to still kind of like, yeah, let's put as much money into it as the company will match. That's important. But then instead of going over that amount, instead putting it into, like you mentioned, some sort of insurance policies. I mean, I think we were talking earlier, you mentioned the word annuities, which is a word that I don't know what that means, even though my dad worked in insurance for his whole life.
Sure.
Sorry, Dad.
So to answer your question, the matching, if you are lucky enough to work for a company that has matching, that is free money, and free money is free money, and you just can't beat free money. Yeah. So if you have matching, whatever it is, whether it's 10 cents of every dollar or a dollar for dollar up to the first $1,000, whatever, take full advantage of that first. That's pretty much the unbeatable thing in the financial world. Even if you have credit card debt, the matching is still going to put you ahead of, when it all equals out. You're probably going to do better by taking some of that matching than just wiping out the credit card debt. Some people would argue that, I understand, but free money is free money. You can't beat that. But I think once you get past that, I've maxed out my free money, I think it's just important to ask the financial advisor that you may be working with, or even the financial advisor at maybe your 401k or your 403b plan, and just say, okay, it seems like this 401k is my plan to retirement, but what is my plan to get through retirement? And that's a nice little rhyme that we can all remember. A lot of us are working very hard to get to retirement, but we don't think about how do we get through it. And what we want to think about is we have money, and money is great, but really what retirees need is income, which is a constant stream of money. And what's the best way to generate that?
Yeah, for sure. Because certainly, very, very few jobs have pensions.
Right, sure.
But shout out to those that do.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you just really quick, you mentioned the word annuity, and there are of annuities. So it's kind of like the word car, where if I say I bought a car, that means something, but it doesn't. It could mean so many different things. Yeah. Same thing with annuities, but annuities are contracts with insurance companies. And it's basically, in most cases, what you're doing is you're trading dollars for some sort of guaranteed income. So I'll give the insurance company $100,000 and they agree to give me, let's just say, $7,000 a year for the rest of my life. That's one kind of annuity, often referred to as a single premium immediate annuity, but that's just one kind of it. But think of it as a contract with an insurance company, and you're trading, in most cases, dollars for income, lump sums for guaranteed income.
Yeah. It's interesting because, I know I definitely fall victim to this for sure, but like the market's sexy, right? And the market's like, it's fast money, it's Wolf of Wall Street, it's buy, sell, yada, yada. It's all that kind of stuff, and control your own destiny, even though you kind of don't. But then it kind of like, then you feel insurance is kind of like Eeyore, right? Like the market's Tigger and insurance is Eeyore. But like, Eeyore's still there doing just fine right there next to Tigger. Like they're still making it.
Exactly.
It's very interesting because oftentimes I think, I don't know, I personally don't even ever think about insurance as that kind of a, I guess like in my retirement plan, other than like get life insurance.
Right.
So yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah. And the thing is with the markets, like the markets are sexy. They do go up and down. And, when the markets drop, when you're working your way to retirement, we kind of are excited about that. Like the market goes down, it's a time to buy some discount stuff. And it's a chance for a discount. But imagine if you were a retiree and you're selling investments every year to pay for your income, and all of a sudden you have to sell after the market has dropped 20%. Yeah. So now you're selling at the bottom rather than doing what you did as an investor, which is buying at the bottom. When you're selling at the bottom, that's going to make you run out of money pretty quickly.
Right. And that's why over the course of your financial life, you start out riskier with way more things in stocks,
Sure.
and then you slowly move them over into bonds and, obviously into things like insurance as well, it sounds like.
And bonds are wonderful. They've just been having a tough time for a long time because interest rates are so low.
Right. Yeah. Peter, you are a wealth of information, and I can't thank you enough. I'm curious if people have questions for you. If so, please put it in the chat. Anything, again, as you can tell, Peter is exceptional at what he does. But for those of you that are listening to the podcast, as always, if you want to hear the Q&A, I encourage you to go to my YouTube channel. Type in James Orbelata on YouTube. It'll pop up. Go to Peter's episode, and you can learn all about what came up with the Q&A and the wisdom that he dropped in there for sure. But Peter, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, man.
Sure. I had a great time. This was terrific.
You are wonderful and a great friend, and I'm just grateful to have you in my life. I feel very fortunate, Peter. So thank you so much. Thank you to those that are listening on the podcast. As always, please throw a rating up there, subscribe and download it, and all those kind of things that you do with podcasts. But thank you so much for tuning in, my friends. And until next time, be well. Peter.
Good night. Thank you.
Peter, let's see what's going on here. For sure. First off, my dad joined. Shout out to Dad. All
right. Hi, Dad.
Dad came just in time for the gecko story, too, so that's good.
All right. Perfect.
I don't know when on the cruise they were told about said geckos, but I know that happened for sure. I had a guilty conscience back then. I was a surprisingly good kid.
Mm-hmm.
I had my moments, don't get me wrong. But,
sure.
These angel wings didn't grow themselves.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Peter, we got Scott asking a question. Would you ever perform in the show Little Shop of Horrors now?
Scott, this is going to blow your mind, but I actually already have.
Really?
Yes, we did Little Shop of Horrors as a high school musical, and I played the dentist.
Wow, because I'm a dentist.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, and there was no blood in the high school show, so I did make it through that. But yeah, I've actually, the movie that passed me out in the bathroom of the movie theater, I eventually starred in myself as the dentist.
Incredible.
Who knew? Who knew? Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Shout out to Audrey for sure.
Right.
Scott, hysterical question.
Love it.
Let me see if there are some others up here. If not, I know I have a couple for you. So Peter, I'd be curious to hear. Most individuals in their 30s are ideally finally starting to get it around their head that they need to do they need to have some sort of a retirement plan, right? That kind of kicks in. Ideally, you started earlier, but for assorted reasons, people don't or whatnot, or maybe they just have the 401k and they're not doing anything else. But what is the next step that you would recommend to somebody after just the 401k? What's the next good thing if you're going to add another layer to it and start almost like building micro habits or atomic habits within this world, right? Like the 401k is great, set it and forget it. That's amazing. 403b, that kind of stuff. What is the next thing that you would recommend individuals get into?
So one of the things I would first suggest is, I know we talked about the insurance world, and it is important that folks kind of make sure they have that sort of baseline insurance. So while you're maybe going and visiting human resources to talk about your 401k, ask them about what other benefits that you have. We're all focused on health insurance. I understand that. And of course, at some point, somebody will approach you to sell you life insurance. But the one in the middle that we often don't talk about is disability insurance. And that is the insurance, they sometimes call it income insurance. That's if you're still alive, but you're unable to do your job. So if you break your leg, your health insurance will pay for the cast and the stitches. If you die, the life insurance will pay your heirs. But what happens if you're hurt, you can't do your job, but you're still alive? That's where disability insurance comes in. Your video that you showed with your British accent had a swan, not a duck. But Affleck, the duck Affleck and all that. Affleck is an insurance company that does sell disability policies, and we want to make sure that that we have those policies. A lot of people they believe that they have them through their work, and that's true, but they may only be a disability policy for 6 months or a year, and we want something a little bit longer than that. So I think it's worth kind of doing that inventory of, well, what do you currently have before we add something else? A lot of people don't know what they currently have, whether that's on the insurance side or your grandmother had some savings bonds for you, or your, whatever, a will, something like that. Kind of taking an inventory is a great next step for wherever you are, even if you don't have a 401k or a retirement plan now.
Yeah. For sure. That's awesome. And life insurance is also something I know that you are a huge proponent of.
Sure. Yeah.
And if you can't there's a difference between, I guess, like general life insurance and then whole life insurance.
Sure. Yeah.
But whole life insurance is very expensive. And it is also more long-term profitable.
Sure. Yeah.
Correct. But any life insurance, if you're getting into the life insurance world, it's okay to start small though, right?
It is. And there are some people who don't need it, who may be single all by themselves, no dependents, no, whatever. But we have to remember that every year you wait to buy it, it is going to be more expensive. So it's something that's worth at least considering. Again, your company probably has a automatic $50,000 policy for every employee, but there may be some folks who need more. And yeah, the two basic types of life insurance are the term insurance, which is just for a specific term, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. After that, it goes away. And then the other stuff is the whole life, which lasts your whole life. Yeah. And the whole life can be, the premiums can be 10 times more, but the whole life kind of opens up a whole bunch of possibilities beyond insurance as well. And we're starting to see some of those possibilities and their importance of them in trying to in veering away from the whole, like, just save a big amount of money in your 401k and you'll be fine. That might have worked in a high interest rate environment or an environment where life expectancies were lower, but it's just been more of a challenge there to just rely on that 401k alone. So certainly it's worth looking at and talking about life insurance, even if you might be a few years away from it, and also, also maybe exploring if whole life is for you. And of course, there are hybrid policies that over time they start out as primarily term and convert to more of a whole life policy as well. So there's probably something in there for each person's individual needs. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's good to know. We just started on that journey ourselves. So
sure.
Yeah. So that's fascinating. We got a few more questions that came in.
Sure.
Scott made a good point, right? Try to get the life insurance for the health your clients. It only gets more expensive the later you try to get into the life insurance game.
Yeah, that's true. And then there are some people that they sadly cannot get it at all because maybe they've had dance with cancer or some other condition that kind of makes the premiums just cost prohibitive. So it's certainly worth, again, you might say, I don't need it right now. I'm a young person, or I'm not married, I'm whatever. I'm single, I'm not married, I don't have any children, but I do have life insurance. And I did buy it. The last policy that I purchased, I bought, I think maybe 12 years ago. So I was in my 30s when I purchased it, because I knew that, crossing certain lines, the line of 40 or whatever, it might, it just might be too expensive for what I was trying to do.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Peter. Question from my friend Christy. What's up, Christy? How you been, friend? Haven't seen you in a minute. Important first step after getting married. I assume she means financially, but if you have any love advice as well.
Right. No, right. Okay. Well, that would be a longer show. Yeah. So Christy, I don't know if you are getting married or just got married. But one of the big things that I would say is really, when it comes to being married and sort of the merging of two lives and the merging of two financial lives is really, I think it's important to kind of set all your cards on the table, the good cards and the ugly cards. I've worked with couples that have tried to hide that maybe one person's credit score is not so good, or maybe somebody's got a lot of credit card debt. Don't hide that. It will eventually show up somewhere, okay?
Yeah.
When you try to buy a house or a car or whatever. And it's good to address whatever it is now. And however bad you think your situation may or may not be, I don't know. It might be great. It might be bad. But I've seen some pretty bad situations where once people revealed what they were going through, and we got a plan together of how to get through it, it wasn't so bad anymore. Even it's not like the debt goes away overnight, but that feeling of, you know what, we were here and now we're just going to slowly bang this down to get to our goals. So I would share your goals, what's important to you. Some people, like James, you're a car guy, maybe. Some people are house people. I want a big house. Some people, don't want a big house. And sharing those goals, what's important, and also sharing what you are willing to give up or cut back on. If you say, I want a nice car, but I'm willing to forego a nice whatever, or vacations every year, whatever. Really kind of having that discussion. For married folks, of course, life insurance, disability insurance are going to be very, very important. Wills and estate planning are going to be very, very important. So I think and I hate to say this, but for married folks, I think the best first step that you can take is, in the financial world, do the boring stuff. Wills, estate planning, insurance. Yeah. The boring stuff is what married people need to start with.
Get that boring stuff out of the way, because otherwise
exactly.
you'll never get back around to it. You got to get it done.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. Get it done while you're thinking about it, for sure.
Right.
I love that. She kind of asked a follow-up question. If an employer offers life insurance, what should be the next step for a new spouse? I guess
sure. Great questions. I'm sorry?
No, you're good. Go ahead, please.
So great question. When an employer offers anything, health insurance, disability insurance, life insurance, one of the things we have to remember is that you have that as long as you work there. Mm-hmm. So if you have life insurance and you work for a company in your 30s, and then you either quit or you get laid off or whatever, you go to this company, they might not offer it. So you have to get it on your own. And now you're 40, not 30 anymore. So I do recommend people, getting their own policies that they can take with them, or at least making sure you can carry your employer policy with you. Often you can, as long as a new employer has a similar program, but sometimes you end up losing that. So that's important to think about. Again, you can purchase for your spouse an insurance policy through your company, but you just want to have to make sure that, can you take that with you if if your significant other moves, if your spouse moves. But I think, for new spouses, really kind of figuring out what it would take to replace your income, or if you don't happen to work for an income, what it would take to replace what it is that you do. A very, very general shoot from the hip rule is to take your annual income and divide it by 6%. And that will or even 5. And that will kind of give you a rough number of some of the minimums that you should have in terms of life insurance. Or take your salary, multiply it by 10, and that will kind of give you an idea roughly of what we need.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you. Christy
no
also
problem.
Thanks
Sure.
you for sure. Last question for you, Peter. You have 2 books coming out this year.
Yes, I do.
When are they dropping, and how will we be able to hear about them?
So anyone that I've ever come in contact with will not be able to escape hearing about these books. The second book, which is the nonfiction book, the book that's about your retirement income streams, we don't have a title for that one yet. So I can't go crazy saying look out for this book, because we don't have a title yet. But definitely, take a look at my YouTube channel. We're going to be posting some videos on there. As I mentioned to you, James, the sad thing is my website is down for the last couple of days, and we've had some serious website trouble. And of course, that happens when you're going on your friend's podcast and not last week.
Right.
But my website, which just is myname.com, will be back up in a couple days or so people can find me there. The fiction book, just remember the title. It is called Capesters. That one does have a title, Capesters. It's called Capesters, and that should be out in late 2020. So keep an eye out for that. And like I said, nobody will escape alive without hearing about those books.
Good. I hope we can have the opportunity to pre-order it also.
Absolutely.
And all that fun stuff. Good, man. Well, Peter, it has just been a damn pleasure, man. Thank you for letting us tap into your wisdom, but also tap into your heart. And thanks for sharing with us what you did today. It means a lot.
Sure. I had a great time. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Let me sign off here and hang on there, Peter. My friends, thank you so much for hanging out in Diner Talks with James. Peter Bielagus, his website will be available. I'll still put it in the YouTube show notes, so you can check them out there. They'll also be in the Facebook show notes as well, so you can still check it out. That'll be up and running anytime soon now. But in the meantime, my friends, thank you so much for joining me in the diner. We will not be back next week. Next week is the first week I'm unfortunately going to be in. Well, not fortunately and unfortunately, I'm going to be in Montana. And I'm giving a speech during the Diner Talk show time. So income is important after not having it for so long. But we will be back the following week, and I have some really exciting news that'll be coming up at that show. So I'm really excited to have you back. So we'll see you again in 2 weeks. And until then, my friends, please remember that the difference between small talk and a meaningful conversation is just a great question. Appreciate y'all joining. Be well.